Lexington Urban League Young Professionals. My name is Morgan Jones, and I'm here with Derek King Jr., tattoo artist and illustrator and creative
Hey,
entrepreneur.
hey.
How's
Yep.
it going, Derek?
I'm doing pretty good. Just happy to be here. Glad to be here. Thankful
Awesome.
for the opportunities.
Of course. You're always doing big things. I was like, I gotta get Derek.
I'm not doing nothing, man.
Okay, so let's just get right into it. What sparked your creative journey? What was the moment you realized like you have to be an artist for a living?
Well, I mean, as far as like my creative journey, I started that when I was a kid, second grade, third grade, going to my grandma's house, drawing after school, you know what I'm saying? Drawing my favorite cartoon characters, my favorite anime characters, favorite sports athletes, favorite musicians, rappers, stuff like that. And so that's kind of where it started, but it wasn't really until I'd say probably my freshman year in art school is when I knew, you know what I'm saying? I was like, I've always like, I could be like a graphic designer, I could be an artist or something like that. But I come from a family where my parents were always like, that's cool, you can draw and everything, but like we gotta pay bills, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's being an artist is hard, it's tough, so uh, I knew I wanted to do something with art. I just didn't know how I wanted to do it, you know what I'm saying? And so when I got to UK and I got around all those other artists, all those professors, and I started soaking up the game from them and everything, they just kind of open the doors for me and show me the avenues and the routes that I could take, to do this, you know what I'm saying? And so I would say like then in that moment is where I realized like, okay, I can do this, you know what I'm saying? I want to do this. This is what I want to do, so.
So when did you first start monetizing your creativity? Was it intentional or did it just kind of like fall into your lap?
It honestly was just kind of came naturally. Never really like I would draw all the time. I'd give pieces away for like projects. I'd give pieces away for birthday gifts, stuff like that. But it was never really about. I was just trying to create stuff. I was just trying to draw, just trying to paint, or whatever the case may be. I wasn't really concerned about making money at the time. But then I started doing it more. Social media came out, started posting stuff more, and then people was like, "Hey, man, like." You selling this? And I'd be like, yeah, actually I am, and so it just kind of like developed over time and just kind of came naturally.
So what were the biggest fears you had to overcome in making your passion into a profession?
I mean, really, like I said earlier, like my mom was real big on like, okay, yeah, you can draw, you can do your thing and all this and that, but like we gotta pay bills, and I have a family, you know what I'm saying? So like for me to like take that leap of faith, it was a tough decision, you know what I'm saying? Like going from working a job to, having everything, guaranteed or not necessarily guaranteed, but it's consistent, you got a job, you show up to work every day, you get the benefits, and all that good stuff. So it was hard to, I guess, take that leap of faith, you know what I'm saying? That was probably my biggest thing, like me back. And so I just mainly just said, we're just gonna get it. It was crazy though, because I was actually working at my 9 to 5 and I was working on a project for one of my homies. He called me and we're talking about the project and we're discussing, things and all that. And he was just like, oh, that's cool, man. Like what are you doing right now? You at the studio, you at the shop? And I was like, nah, man, I'm at work. And he was like, what you like, the studio, the shop? And I was like, nah, man, like I'm selling paint over here at my job, a little 9 to 5. And he was like, what are you doing that for, man? Like you don't need to be doing that. Like you should be creating stuff all day, every day. And so that was like one of many different encounters that I had. And it was just like random encounters like that where people would just randomly say like, what are you doing? So it kind of like opened my eyes and like woke me up and was just like, all right, bro, like, let's
You're
get
an
out.
artist.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
I'm an
that's what I'm
artist.
supposed
Like
to
let's
do.
let's get after this. And I literally put my 2 weeks in like that day and made it happen. So I've been doing it ever since. And so
So how do you balance the art with the business side of what you do? Like what are your different streams of revenue?
I mean, whole business thing, like in art, like you can't really have one without the other. I mean, you can, but like one's gonna suffer. You know what I'm saying? So I try to, I try to structure like my days. Like let's say I have a tattoo appointment at 1 o'clock. So I'll base everything around that. I'll wake up early and I'll draw until probably about 12. Go grab some lunch, go to the studio and knock out a tattoo, and then if let's say I need to make a post or if I need to, do some respond to emails or if I need to post products or something like that, I'll do that, during after I'm done with the tattoo, or if I'm like taking a break or something like that. And then I'll go back to drawing, you know what I'm saying? If I don't have anything else to do. And so I think more so it's just about for me, it's about making a schedule, you know what I'm saying? And sticking to that schedule, being very like disciplined, you know what I'm saying? Rather than motivated, so I try to stay disciplined, stay on that track, and just try to, respond to emails when I need to, respond to messages when I need to, make those posts and stuff like that. And so I just try to stay consistent with that and try to stay disciplined. And then, I mean, as far as like, the income and the revenue and everything, it's just more so, I sell prints, I do tattoos, I do commission work, I do, murals and stuff like that. And so there's one of my mentors used to always tell me, he was like, you gotta have, it's cool to do one thing, but like having multiple streams of income and multiple ways to make money and bring money in is essential. You know what I'm saying? It's a good skill to have. And so I just kind of like took that to heart and just tried to, figure out different ways I can monetize my art, figure out how I can creatively like bring, things in, pay the bills, and I can do this full time.
Have you had any like tools or grants or resources that have helped you sustain your creative business?
Social media for sure. Like Instagram is huge. You know what I'm saying? Like it lets you connect with people who are in New York or California or across the seas in Europe and stuff like that. And I've done projects with people in New York and Cali and all that just based on social media. So I mean, it's definitely one of my biggest tools that I use, just because it's convenient. It's popping right now. Build your content, just do your thing and present the world, yourself, and you can make it happen that way. And so that's one of the main things. And I mean, just like responding to grants, sometimes it's all about people too, getting connected with certain galleries, getting connected with people in the government or over these like art programs and stuff like that, to where they're emailing you about projects coming up, uh, you know, being able to respond to those calls that they put out, so you can, do the RFQs and all that, and just kind of fill out everything and get your name out there and get your foot in the door, and then that could lead to other business opportunities and stuff like that.
What role does community, especially Black and Brown professional circles, play in your creative journey?
For me, my work is not solely based, but it revolves around, community. It revolves around like my personal experiences and shared community experiences. So for me, like, representation has always been a big thing in my work. I always wanted to paint and draw people that look like me and put it out there in galleries, tell the story of the voiceless, tell our stories, speak on our culture, different cultures. I like to look at my work as like little windows or documentation, into life. You know what I'm saying? So like when you look into this piece, you see a culture that you either resonate with and connect with, or you see a culture that you don't understand, that you like, it might entice you, it might bring you in to want to like learn more about that culture and stuff like that. And so, and like community just plays a big role in that, you know what I'm saying? Just growing up in Lexington has influenced, like, I've done cowboy series with horses and stuff. And I mean, just being around horses in Kentucky and all that has just played a big role in that. And then, I use a lot of my models for my pieces are like just people from the community, you know what I'm saying? People that are walking up and down the street, they might come to the tattoo shop, they might come to the studio or something like that. We'll do a photo session. I'm like, hey man, can I photograph you? I'm an artist, I like to take pictures of people. I like your look or something like that. And it's just different people, different avenues of life and like different cultures and stuff like that, and exploring that, and then just putting it on paper, and then you get, just create something special from that. And so
How do you handle creative burnout or rejection?
with the burnout thing, I feel like that's more so like it goes back to like the whole motivated versus disciplined conversation. You know what I'm saying? You're always motivated. You might be motivated in the morning to do some crazy work, and then it kind of dies out. But discipline is where it's more consistent. You know what I'm saying? Like you're disciplined, you're locked in, you're focused on your goal, your journey, whatever the task may be. And so that's kind of how I handle burnout. You know what I'm saying? Like I might not be motivated, or I might not have any ideas, but I'm still gonna make something. I'm still gonna create something no matter what. I've done all types of pieces and stuff that that'll never see the light of day. You know what I'm saying? They're tucked away in the sketchbook. They're excuse me, they're tucked away in the studio somewhere, just locked away where nobody's gonna ever see them, And that's kind of how I handle that, I always constantly create. I'm constantly working, I'm constantly practicing, trying to better myself and better my craft. And then as far as rejection, I treat it like basketball, or, sports, just have that mentality, next play mentality, Sometimes things aren't going to work out. Things aren't going to align, us as, people might not have the same vision, you know what I'm saying? And it happens, and you just got to be able to accept it and understand that it's a part of the game and understand that uh, it's gonna happen. You just gotta be prepared for it. And you can't soak on it. Understand what you did wrong if you did something wrong, or try to understand something. About their vision and how y'all not aligning or connecting with each other and stuff like that. And so I don't really like let it bother me too much. It happens. But you just try to keep going and just wait for the next one. So
What does success look like for you now versus when you first started?
when I first started, success was basically like what I'm doing now. You know what I'm saying? Like when I was a kid, I was like, man, I want to be not like a kid, but like I want to be a full-time artist. I want to be able to make work, create work, live a, fulfilling life, just creating and doing that. And so I'm doing that now. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I've reached that point. But now it's kind of like Chris Hudson with Life Journey. He's always talking about think global, not local. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm trying to do this just on a more global scale. Just on a more macro rather than micro level. Just getting myself out there more. Traveling more, you know what I'm saying, going across the seas, different states, just putting my artwork out there so people can see it and all that.
So, with that, what's next for you and how can your community support you?
I mean, I'm always got projects in the works. I got a few series planned out, not necessarily like gallery works or gallery shows, that might come. But I do have a couple of series planned out. A lot of people ask me about my clothes and all that. And so I got more clothes and merchandise and all that coming out soon. But yeah, you can follow me on Instagram, Derek King Jr. Art, DerekKingJr. Art. You can find me on there. You can follow me. I'll post everything on there. I'm on Facebook as well. So you could follow me there. You can keep up with my stories, keep up with everything that I have going on. You can also, follow my website if you like. You can, like I said, connect with that on Instagram as well. But yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Derek.
Oh, yeah, no problem.